നമസ്കാരം. ചോദ്യം ഉത്തരം പരിപാടിയിലേക്ക് എല്ലാ പ്രേക്ഷകർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. എഴുത്തുകാരൻ, ചിന്തകൻ, സാമ്പത്തിക വിദഗ്ധൻ, കേന്ദ്രമന്ത്രി, അന്വേഷണാത്മക പത്രപ്രവർത്തകൻ, ഇങ്ങനെ വിവിധ മേഖലകളിൽ ശോഭിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ് ശ്രീ അരുൺ ഷൂരി. ശ്രീ അരുൺ ഷൂരിയാണ് ചോദ്യം ഉത്തരം പരിപാടിയിലെ ഇന്നത്തെ നമ്മുടെ അതിഥി. വെൽക്കം മിസ്റ്റർ അരുൺ ഷൂരി ടു ദിസ് ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ. Since you are a fearless editor, I would like to know, how do you see the whole Indian media landscape, the media scenario today? Why I am asking you, because there is a growing feeling among the viewers, among the readers, that most of the Indian media is either manipulated or controlled by the state. Do you think so?
Yes, there is no doubt on that. And therefore, most of the media are today not performing their duty, which is to keep a hawk's eye on things which rulers are doing. And rulers can be both in the political sphere, they can be police people, they can be judges, they can be corporate leaders. And so we are not doing our job.
See, a lot of things are happening nowadays in our country. Farmers are committing suicide, farmers are protesting in Madhya Pradesh, many part of the country, but there is no news is carried.
Yes.
And one or two national media is carrying that news. If anything happens against the government, it is off air. Why is it so?
Firstly, there is too much concentration of the media in Delhi. It is Delhi-centric and so-called national media. And they should really be called the regional media of Delhi, not the national media. And they are under the fear now of the government. Mr. Modi's government is regarded as very vengeful, and they have made examples of certain channels or certain newspapers, Rajasthan Patrika being denied advertisements in Rajasthan. So that has sent a sort of
TV houses are raided.
Yes, in the case of NDTV it was done. And that has what the Supreme Court has called a chilling effect on the rest of the media. This is one point. Second is that they have been able to influence even the appointments within media of individuals, or to get people removed from channels or from the newspapers. And this has had a very big effect. I think the third reason for this is that the journalists have actually, in a sense, become too rich, and therefore they are cut off from society. They get lakhs of rupees and so on, and their concerns then become how to protect those sources of large income, rather than to do their job. The other feature that I think is happening is the commercialization of newspapers or of these channels by looking at these artificial TRP ratings. This commercialization means that, as I think that Vineet Jain has said, that they look upon news merely as the fillers for space between advertisements. I think in an interview to a Western newspaper or magazine, he had said that we are not in the news business, we are in the advertising business.
Exactly.
Similarly, if you look at the story put out by The Wire on Amit Shah's son, it's a very important story, but you look at the headlines of Times of India and of most of the newspapers in Delhi, other than the Indian Express, it is that the Shahs are putting a 100 crore defamation suit on The Wire.
Exactly.
Not the facts about the story. And actually speaking, the job of other newspapers should have been that they will follow up the story. They may find errors in the story, they may find things that are right in the story, or they may uncover new facts. But not one paper followed up the story. That is the condition of the media. And why it is done? Partly because of commercialization, but partly out of fear.
You have said that Rajasthan Patrika was actually denied advertisement.
Yes.
As a journalist, you are well aware that major revenue is coming from the advertisement.
Yes.
Do you think that the advertisers are pressurized to withdraw their advertisement from the media, which is talking against the government policies?
I am sure that is the case. I know in the case of one TV channel that the senior executives told me personally that their advertisers were being approached by the government this is a hostile act that you are patronizing this particular channel. So we have to find ways, I feel, for the future that this tendency will become more and more intensified because the economic situation is going to worsen because of these whimsical policies, Muhammad Tughlaq policies of the government, and they are not listening to anybody. Therefore, they will make greater errors. The economic situation will become, in my view, worse, for instance, in regard to unemployment, and therefore the government will become even more repressive about the conventional media. And therefore, I have been pleading for 2.5, 3 years now that please start looking for alternate ways of collecting information and spreading information through the internet, through various ways which will get around the government's efforts. Because when we take to the internet, they will start blocking internet sites.
Yes.
So we must find the expertise, or we must ally ourselves with professional hackers, for instance, as to how we can get around those devices of the government. That's very important.
Why the government is afraid of the people? Why they want to manipulate the media? Why they want to circulate false news, fake news, exaggerated news?
Avalanche of abuse on anybody who opposes them.
Exactly.
The reason for that is obviously that they are an authoritarian government, and all authoritarian governments want to control everything. You see, when we say a totalitarian government,
Yeah.
that means they want to control the totality. That is why they are totalitarian. They want to control everything. Bureaucracy, judiciary. You have seen the attempts to control the judiciary in the last 3 years.
Yes.
They want to control, therefore, mind space, the thinking of the people. It is in that sense that the government's attitudes are, nature is a totalitarian nature. They control parliament, and they don't care for law or convention. For instance, this to make the Rajya Sabha irrelevant, because they don't have a majority there, they just change. They say, no, these bills are money bills. I mean, this is amazing. It has never happened in India like this. But you just made half the parliament irrelevant. And by definition, the party in power controls the lower house. That is why it is the party in power. So now effectively they control both houses. So they want to they control parliament, they have attempted to control the judiciary, they have
Controlling the media.
And thereby controlling what people hear and therefore what they think. And it is sad and outrageous that your colleagues and mine in our profession have succumbed so easily. Actually, thus far, there are very few reasons to fear, but it is greed which is the motivating factor which has made people become the instruments of government. And there's a Zulu proverb which I have quoted earlier that a dog with a bone in his mouth can't bark.
Yes.
So the media has become a dog with a bone in its mouth. The bone is advertising, and the bone is the high salaries and other privileges, including proximity to those who are in office for individual journalists. That's how their mouth is shut. But we are to blame. There's a very good sentence of Marx. They appear as giants because we are on our knees. We should not be like that.
See, Mr. Shourie, not only the media, what about our civil liberties? That is also at stake.
Yes.
Rationalists are killed.
Yes.
RTA activists are killed. Journalists like Gauri Lankesh is killed.
Yes.
So it is don't you think that it is an alarming situation?
Of course it is alarming, because and each of these is being done to the same effect and for the same purpose. That is, there's a Chinese saying, kill the chicken to frighten the monkeys. So you kill a few, and everybody then says, why take this, why risk one's life? And that is the effect which is being achieved. Other than greed, that is how fear is being spread. And this will, in the end, I assure you now, that in the end it will not only, it will completely undermine the government itself. I'll tell you why. One, when they control parliament, when they control the bureaucracy, when they control the media, they get the delusion that we are controlling the situation.
Yes.
But actually speaking, the situation can go out of control. But you are deaf and blind by what you have done. The second reason has been given very well by Mark Tully, one of the wisest people who loves India so much. He said the other day in an interview with the Indian Express, he said that when news is suppressed, rumor takes over.
Exactly.
And rumor is much more destructive of governmental authority. And the third reason is that when the media becomes an instrument of the government, nobody believes it. And therefore their instrument becomes useless. They control the media, but nobody believes the media. And that is a situation that I think is already beginning to happen. I've called these some of these channels as North Korean channels. And who will believe a North Korean channel? I don't think people in North Korea will believe it. So also in India.
See, throughout the history, we have seen autocrats, they want to control the media. In that way, do you think that Mr. Narendra Modi is an autocrat who does not want to hear any criticism?
Well, that is certainly manifest, yes. He doesn't want to hear criticism. And he has, unfortunately for the country, I feel, he has sealed himself in a room, completely airtight, soundproof room, with just 1.5 other persons with him. Amit Shah and this lawyer, in-house lawyer. That's all. So they are deaf and blind. They are not hearing what is the talk among the people. Precisely what you were saying about farmers' deaths. And it is just, they are so satisfied that they have been able to manage the headlines or the news cycle for today and the headlines for tomorrow. 400
Yes.
or so many 100 people, children die in Gorakhpur.
Yeah.
No problem. Tomorrow you start another issue. So the news cycle is turned that way. And they are willing, journalists, anchors and others who take up another issue so that you will not focus on this particular issue that evening. And the ruler thinks, see, I am powerful, I have deflected the news. But the people who are affected, they notice. And in India, we have a very powerful other instrument, and that is word of mouth. I'll give you an example. There was, when Mr. Sanjay Gandhi died in the air crash, there was a rumor that Mrs. Gandhi went to the site to look for his watch. And everybody said, no, because behind the watch there was the Swiss account number. I mean, nobody knows, but that was the rumor. Soon after that crash, my wife and we brought our child to Kottakkal.
Oh, Palakkad, Kottakkal.
Kottakkal for Ayurvedic, Ayurvedic Shala is there.
Yeah.
And Kottakkal in those days, now it's a very big hospital, but in those days it was quite a remote place. Yeah. We had come by train from Madras. And there people asked me, sir, did Mrs. Gandhi go there to get her watch? Do you think there was the Swiss
account
number? Now, nobody had published that fact.
But it has come from Delhi
from
to
Delhi
Palakkad.
Yes, to Kottakkal. So this is a great safeguard in India, the word of mouth. After all, we make probably 1 billion or more than 1 billion railway journeys every year. And every person who is going from one place to the other is a little newspaper. He is carrying information. So what will the governments control? I don't think so. But they don't realize it. They are so satisfied. Oh, we have controlled this bureau chief, I've got him appointed, I've got him 4-year extension, other people are retiring, so this fellow is indebted to me, etc. But then nobody believes that bureau chief.
And when rationalists are killed, PM Modi is silent. When journalist is killed, PM Modi is silent. When an RTI activist is killed, PM Modi is silent. Why this deafening silence? Does he want to encourage these criminals?
Of course. No, I think it's a division of labor. Some people, if you have some servants in your house, then you don't go and cut the chicken.
No need.
Servant does it. So when it comes to you, it is already cooked and very nice looking. So that is the position. There's a division of labor. It is not just about journalists. For instance, in the killings in UP before the 2014 elections, everybody kept saying, why is Mr. Modi keeping quiet? Why is Mr. Modi keeping quiet? But that's precisely the point. And it can't be that he does not know. After all, Mr. Mahesh Sharma, who made these some of the worst statements, all these people, some of them were ministers in his own government. On the one side, we were being told that Mr. Modi is keeping a watch on everybody, everybody should be careful. On the other, that he does not know these things. How can it be? On the one side, we are told he is all powerful, he has complete control over the party. And on the other, that, what can he do about such so-and-so Sadhvi? How can he control her? So I feel that it is a division of labor, and that people are seeing through this now. People are seeing that he is the ventriloquist. There is this dummy that seems to be talking, but he is the one who is actually doing it. And when he chooses to be silent, at one stage, I think in that Muzaffarnagar killings or something, I had at that time studied what are this. I hate this tweet business. The Prime Minister of India twittering. But anyhow, these tweets, I studied what are the tweets at that time from him.
For example, in Dadri incident happened, the Prime Minister was keeping silent, and that day I think he was tweeting some birthday wishes to Mahesh Sharma.
Yes, that was 3-4 to David Cameron.
Yeah.
And at one stage he also tweeted to the happy birthday to the Afghan president on the wrong day. So it is not that he was very busy with his official work. And I have had to say earlier also, you see, he is not, after all, the Under Secretary in the Department of Homeopathy in the Ministry of Health. He is the Prime Minister of India.
Yes.
And therefore, he must set the moral tone for the country. So his silence is a dereliction of duty. It is his duty to set the moral tone.
Do you think that Modi wants to polarize the country? Is he playing the politics of polarization? Is he playing the politics of divide and rule?
There is no doubt on that. Their campaigns are casteist campaigns. Their calculations on seats are by caste and subcaste. And this inflaming sentiments on both sides. You see, because words acquire a meaning of their own. Whatever the dictionary meaning may be one, but the word acquires a meaning in the public mind. So when I say jihad,
yes.
Let us say I am in Kerala and I say CPM is killing my people.
Yes.
And therefore I am now in a jihad against CPM. It has two meanings. One, that I will also be as violent. Jihad is violent.
Yeah.
Secondly, it is a word which reminds everybody about Muslims, about Islam.
Yes.
So I don't have to say, oh, Hindus are different from Muslims. The very word does it for me. So these are very conscious words. And you will see that when the purpose is served, when the political milk has been drawn from the word, as much milk as you could get out of it, then it is suddenly, it disappears. For instance, when the last vote in UP was cast, talk of love jihad finished.
No garva pussy, no love jihad.
How? You mean to say there was no Ghar Wapsi after that? No conversion after that? No love jihad after that? It's finished on one day?
Then what is the purpose? Why they are making all these slogans? Love jihad, Ghar Wapasi, beef ban, nationalism, just to get votes, just to win the election.
No point, no doubt on that. And that is why it is so unfortunate that in India now people are prepared to, or rulers are prepared to go to any length just to win an election. They are certainly putting the winning elections above the interests, long-term interests of the country. And therefore, I mean, look at the word which Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, one of the most experienced politicians and political observers in the country, has just used when he went, I think, for the Durga Puja celebrations to Bengal. He said, I fear the country is heading towards balkanization. That's a very big word. So, if Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, I am not thinking of him as a person who was 5 terms in the Rajya Sabha, who was Minister for Defence, Finance, Commerce, everything, or the President of India. No, but as a political observer with 50 years of political observing behind him, that wisdom there.
Let me clearly ask you, what is the characteristic of Modi regime?
Untruthfulness, falsehood. That is the dominant characteristic. There are other things that flow from it, but every fact of theirs, every claim of theirs should be examined. I can give you so many examples. I mean, the official, to give one example, official statistics show that we are in what they call jobless growth.
Yes.
In fact, in January to April, 1.5 million jobs are supposed to have been lost. That's the estimate of the, not of X, Y, or Z, but of the Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy in Bombay. Now, 2 weeks ago, there were full-page ads.
Mudra advertisement.
Mudra advertisement saying that 5.5 crore jobs have been created by this single program. Well, there must be some basis for it. Similarly, when these coal mines were auctioned, first time, the government claimed that 2 lakh crores had been obtained from the auction of the mines. Do you know how much actually had been obtained? 6,760 crores. 6,700 crores. And they said 2 lakh crores. So how did they get to 2 lakh? Then they explained, no, this is 2 lakhs will come if the winners of the coal mine auctions work the mines to full capacity for the next 30 years. In 30 years, my friend, coal is not even going to be a preferred fuel. Already the coal mines are in distress. But they claim that. I can give you 20 such examples. And it is my request to all of us that we must examine every claim, every figure put out by them.
But Mr. Shourie, earlier you were a staunch supporter of Narendra Modi.
Yes.
I think in 2009 I had seen some video that you were saying, Agale Prime Minister Gujarat se hona chahiye. The next Prime Minister should be from Gujarat. And in 2014, just before the elections, you have given an interview to Mr. Karan Thapar in which you have said that Modi is going to be the best Prime Minister. But after 2 years, everything has turned around. Why you changed your opinion about Modi?
No.
What made you to change your opinion?
No, three things. I think that's a very important point. Firstly, I feel that one of the lessons I have learned is that we should be very careful for what we wish for, because our wishes may come true.
Okay.
So what happened was that in the case of Rajiv Gandhi, for instance, we were pursuing Bofas. He had our editions shut. He had, on Guru Murthy's count, more than 300 criminal cases and inquiries and raids and customs notices and so on against us. So we were very angry. And when somebody took up our cause from within government, VP Singh, we said, okay, we'll support him. And then we were accused of building him up. That was a very important lesson. That very VP Singh panicked when Devilal had to go because of our work. he announced Mandal and has put our country back by 50 years. So in the case of Mr. Narendra Modi, same thing happened. There was policy paralysis in Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh's government. He is a good and decent man, but he had abdicated his authority. He had great moral authority. There was no reason for him to succumb to or to feel that he has to listen to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi or this National Advisory Council or anybody. He had great moral authority, but he abdicated that. And on the other side also, I must confess that in my own case, completely unjust inquiries were started because they were caught in things like 2G scam or coal auctioning, these mines scam. And so to say, no, this was also under NDA, the same things were happening. They started inquiries into telecom decisions and disinvestment decisions that were taken when I was the minister. So I was naturally enraged. Their very CBI under their control had eventually to say during their tenure that no, there was nothing wrong in these things at all. But they had subjected us to those things. So I was quite upset. And then you start looking, okay, X is the alternative, and you start reading virtues. In my case, there is no doubt that I shut my eyes to various things. I did not examine the Gujarat achievements in detail. The kind of government which we are seeing in Delhi today surprises nobody from Gujarat. Why? Because this was the Gujarat model of governance. But we shut our eyes to it. So it is very important not to get so upset with an existing situation that we leap for somebody whom we have not thoroughly examined. That's a very important point, and you are right on that.
Earlier you have said that no, Trimurtis are ruling the country, Amit Shah, Jaitley and Narendra Modi. Yes. Now recently you have said that 2.5% are ruling the country. The half person is an internal lawyer, that's what you said.
Yes,
and now again you said that President Modi is ruling the country. Are we under a dictatorship?
No, not yet. Not yet. Because after all, you and I are talking freely. Under a dictatorship, we won't be able to do that. But the tendencies are dictatorial. And it is very necessary to wake up in time. Because once a dictatorship is established, you can't do much. So you must, they say that time has no hind locks, nothing at the back. You have to catch it from the front. So you have to deal with these tendencies now, not wait for them to congeal into a dictatorship. Then it will be too late.
Let me ask you a very important question. What is the character of Narendra Modi? Again, I am quoting you. Just before the election in 2014, you have given an interview to CNIBN in which you said that he is a very good listener. He is going to take all the chief ministers into confidence. He is going to change the plight of the country. Now you are saying that he is a narcissist, a Machiavellian.
That's very interesting. Actually speaking, he, in the meetings that we had in his house in Ahmedabad, while he was chief minister and during the campaign, he was an extraordinary listener. He would sit through a 5-hour meeting, and he will say, no, let's go back 3 slides and I want the information. Sharmaji, I want the information on that point about Hyderabad. He was completely attentive. We would get 3 or 4 of us who would be there, we would get exhausted. But it turns out that might have just been an act, because he now is not listening, not to me, but there's nobody else there. So that was one point, I think, about listening. Secondly, he himself said that yes, I have been the chief minister. I know that my voice has not been heard in Delhi. So when I go there, I will definitely be, this cooperative federalism. It was an idea, it was a phrase also which had come up during these meetings. And he said, that's absolutely right. I took him at his word. I did not at that time examine whether he was having a cooperative attitude towards his own cabinet, which would have, I should have examined that in Gujarat. Then we would have known, would he be, is it in his character to do the same thing in when he goes to Delhi? I remember a sentence. And then when something was pointed out that in Gujarat this is happening or that is happening, he had a very interesting sentence. He said, हाँ हाँ मैं समझता हूँ. Yes, yes, I understand. When the bride goes from her parents' house to the house of her in-laws, everything about her has to change. So when I go from Ahmedabad to Delhi, yes, everything about has to change. But actually speaking, and one person who had warned me, who was very close to him at that time, he said that no, this is his nature and it will not change. And I disregarded that. He has been proven right and I was proven wrong. And all I can do is to acknowledge my mistake in public.
See, most of the people fear that, if BJP is able to retain power in 2019, there will be no election after that. Do you foresee such a situation?
No, they can, after there are elections going on in, Erdogan is having elections in Turkey, Putin has elections in Russia. So elections are a very superficial measure of democracy. It is only one of the ingredients of democracy. Supposing the opposition is decimated and after that you hold elections, that is very different from a democratic election. So to say that elections will not be held is neither here nor there. But fair elections may not be held.
Fair elections may not be held.
May not be held. And elections are actually just one element even in governance. For instance, already institutions like the CBI, IB, NIA are being used as instruments of the central government. And supposing they are used even more viciously and openly as instruments of the central government, to assume, to intimidate potential opposition candidates or to intimidate the media, and you hold elections. So elections then are just one element. You should see the totality, the total character of the regime. That's very necessary, always. You see, and that should be our test, the totality of the character of a regime. And if you conclude that yes, this is a character which will harm the country, let's say it will divide the people, then whether the people vote for that character or not, it is our job as professionals to withdraw cooperation from that regime. It's very necessary. That much, that little much we must be Gandhian, at least that little bit.
Let me ask you, maybe an unpleasant question for you, but the BJP people, they are saying that, Yashwant Sinha and Arun Shourie are jobless, they are unemployed. Actually, they want to be inducted in the Modi's cabinet, but that is not happened, so they are frustrated. So that is why you are coming out heavily on Narendra Modi and criticizing Narendra Modi. What's your response?
You see, actually speaking, they don't know, they are fools, because they don't know in my case that I came back to India in 1976, giving up my job at the World Bank because I was opposed to the emergency. Now, since 1976 till now, how many years have gone? 25 years plus 15 years. So that's about 40 years. I think in the 40 years, I would probably have had a regular job for only about 7-8 years. So otherwise, I have been unemployed. So I am quite accustomed to unemployment, and I am quite busy with my own books and my own work. I don't need the job. Secondly, that actually speaking, it is a very good thing that I was never inducted into Mr. Modi's government, because it is clear that I could not have lasted in that government for 1 month. Seeing the character of the government, even if I wanted to be in the government, it is a great blessing that I was not inducted into it. I would have been quarreling. And the third thing I had to suggest after they called Mr. Yashwant, they said Yashwant Sinha, like shares Arun Shourie's frustration. So I had said, please publish the list of frustrated people first, so that we know. Otherwise, you keep adding names. Anybody who criticizes you, you say he's frustrated, frustrated. Now, people are quite happy outside. But you know, when they say these things, it shows their own character, a very low character, very low people. In Hindi, they are called niche, low chaps. That's their values. They project onto others their own feelings. If they were not in government, they would feel frustrated. Therefore, they say, he is frustrated. In psychology, it is known as ego protection through projection. You protect your own ego by projecting onto others the traits that you have. That's what these fellows are exhibiting.
Finally, Mr. Shourie, what is the alternative before us?
I think several things. Firstly, society has to be more active and energetic. Don't look only to the political class for solutions. Because in a sense, it is a political class which has been homogenized by a particular type of politics for 30, 40 years. It's not a sudden development. Society is much healthier than the political class. So the society, and especially articulate sections of the society, must be much more active. And they must focus on how to get past the state. This is one very important point. They can each person can take up one institution, each person can take up one minister, each person can take up one issue and keep a watch on that particular minister or that issue or that institution and keep spreading the facts across. I think that is very necessary. Second, as far as the political class is concerned, I have 2-3 suggestions to them which I am trying to put to them also. But one point is that every one of these leaders must realize that they are their parties and they are personally in mortal danger. Because one of the features of a totalitarian government is all institutions, all discourse and the entire geographical space. So Modi is not going to limit himself to X or Y state. He will undermine, destroy, co-opt from other parties and finish all parties' existence. So the political leaders of these parties better wake up, and they should focus on what the Marxists call the principal contradiction, the principal danger, which is a mortal danger to each of them. So my appeal to them is, in every election, whether it is an election of a student body, or it is of the corporation, or it is of the assembly, or it is of the Lok Sabha, there must be only one candidate against the BJP candidate.
All should unite.
All should unite. Because, after all, even at the height of Mr. Modi's wave, he got only 31% of the vote.
Yes.
So, if you unite, you are starting with 69%. So, you should unite. If you agree, as you are saying, that it is a mortal danger for you personally and more important for the country, then the first requisite is one candidate. And all this talk of common minimum program and all is bunk. Well, you and I can sit down and draft, or two frustrated people, why not? Mr. Yashwant Sinha is so experienced. Yeah. He and I can draft a common minimum program in one day. No problem. Nobody even looks at the common minimum program later on. It is just used to put the other ally on the defensive. Can you today say what the BJP said in its manifesto? Nobody can say. Yeah. Nobody cares. So, saying no, first there must be a common minimum program, then we will get together. This is just an excuse for bargaining, for being the difficult bride. So I feel, first come to this understanding. When you want suggestions for common minimum program, there are so many people in the country who can do it. You have your in-house experts also. So do that.
Pleasure talking to you, Mr. Arun Shourie, and I wish all the very best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.